Live.
Good evening. Welcome to this North West Area Planning Committee meeting on 3rd of December. My name is Councillor Mark Durham. I'm the chairperson of this depleted committee. Members, we're streaming the meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you're giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I'll then invite you at the appropriate time. Please avoid approaching the top table as this could create interference with the cameras and live stream. The YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of microphones, therefore can ask when invited to speak. You remember to turn on your microphone, turn it off when finished. Please reference page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. There aren't any fire alarm testing scheduled for today, however we may have periodic fire alarms. Members, please sign in and out when entering the council offices, and if we hear an alarm, exit using either of the two marked fire escape routes, and once out of the building, please proceed to the designated muster point located on the grass verge by the police station entrance. Right, so can I have apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Chair. We have received apologies for absence from Councillor Hughes, Thompson and Whiffen and White. But I believe there's additional ones with Councillor Siddle and Councillor Morgan.
Well, they're not here, so yeah, okay. Item 3, minutes. It's recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on 5th of November, found on pages 7 to 14, are approved as a true record. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Morley. I'm sorry, Clive. Yeah, Councillor Morley. I guess we all agree those. Thank you very much indeed. Item 4, declarations of interest to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. You're also reminded to disclose any such interest as soon as you become aware, should the need arise throughout the meeting. We will move quickly on to the first item on the agenda, which is item 5, I believe. Agenda item 5, found on pages from page 15, and this is Barn A at the Barn, Braxted Park Road, Colchester. Mr. Bailey, are you taking us through this?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, this is an application for the erection of 4 new build dwellings in lieu of prior approval for 4 dwellings, subject of application 24/0072 PACUAR at the Barn, Braxted Park Road, Great Braxted. As the description of development makes clear, this is a proposal which follows on from the recent grant of prior approval for the conversion of 2 barns to create 4 dwellings in April 24, details of which I will come on to shortly. There has been a members' update circulated on this application yesterday, which I hope you've received, providing some corrections and clarifications in terms of the comparative changes between the prior approval scheme and the current proposal. I'll run through those in due course. Just a quick overview of the site location, which is here on the slide. Southern side of Braxted Park Road, approximately 1 kilometre to the north of Great Totham and 1.5 kilometres southwest of Tiptree. The site lies outside any defined settlement boundary and within the open countryside as set out within the report. Moving closer into the site for the immediate context to show adjoining properties, this plan, just so members are aware, is the site layout as approved under the prior approval scheme. You can see that we have existing residential properties at Fairview to the west, the Barn to the south and Leamore to the east. The extant prior approval barn conversion scheme shown here which was approved in April 24, creates a total of 4 dwellings arranged in 2 groups of 2 semi-detached pairs contained within the converted structures. Following a review of the scheme in advance of commencing building works, the applicant now wishes to demolish the existing structures and replace these with barn-style properties to match broadly the existing structures, albeit with some alterations to the footprint and a reduction in height to the barns, the existing barns. As you can see here, the front barn, fronting onto Braxted Park Road, is remodelled in a horseshoe pattern with amenity space to the rear, providing improved separation from the neighbouring property at Leamore. The rear units now here are in an L-shape arrangement to allow for improved private amenity space and reduction in overall massing, which I'll come on to shortly with the plans themselves. You can also see on the plan the additional soft landscaping provided by the new scheme to the front of the site, which improves the setting as viewed from the street scene, and to the rear between the barns with this rectangular and banana-shaped pieces of amenity space here. Again, I'll come on to that shortly. Just a quick photographic tour of the site. This is the existing site entrance from Braxted Park Road, with hard standing to the front, which will be replaced with planting. This is the centre of the site, showing the existing hard standing. Apologies for the pixelated photograph. Turning to the left to face the existing front barn structure and open-sided bay. This is the same structure as viewed from the rear of the site. And moving to the back of the site, this is barn 2, with the street-facing elevation, and again from behind to show you the overall massing in its current form and condition. In terms of changes to the footprint, the 2 proposed dwellings within plot 1 to the front of the site are again handed as semi-detached properties, but will be split to the centre to create improved separation and amenity space for those units, whilst being constructed to a lower height to reduce visual impact from Braxted Park Road. Here are the comparative elevations between the prior approval scheme at the top and the current proposal at the bottom. A sympathetic choice of materials is proposed. The palette consisting of black weatherboarding above a brickwork plinth with plain roof tiles, typical of the area and very similar, of course, to those found at Braxted Farm Shop to the east of the site. The comparative layouts of the rear 2 units, now arranged in an L shape, again with a shallower footprint to allow for reduced height, which you can see here in the comparative elevations of the prior approval scheme at the top and the current scheme below. So to summarise, yes, the site is outside of defined settlement boundary, but with the council's 5-year housing and land supply position, the tilted balance applies. As the report explains, although the site is in a remote rural location, an extant consent remains in place which is capable of being implemented, and to cite case law has a real prospect of being pursued. Indeed, the applicant has stated that they would proceed with it in any event. Therefore, in light of the established prior approval fallback, it's considered that the proposal would not result in additional or unacceptable harm beyond that which could occur under the extant permission. The principle of development is therefore considered acceptable, and it is noted in terms of other matters that the development would not result in any harm in terms of residential amenity, highway safety, or ecology or biodiversity, subject to planning conditions. The recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to the conditions in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Have we a speaker on this, Mr. Bailey?
I don't believe we do.
Okay. Members. There is recommendation to approve. Obviously, that's already got an extant permission. My observation is that it's probably an improvement over the extant permission. Yeah, Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've known this site for a lot of years, and I agree with you. It'd be a vast improvement what's there at the moment. So, thank you.
Councillor Stevens.
Just that, an improvement over what's there at the moment and over what was agreed before. So I would propose that we go along with the officer's recommendation.
Are you going to second that, Councillor Morley? Okay, those please indicate then in favour. Thank you. I will also, so that is passed. Thank you. We're moving swiftly on. Thank you for that, members. We have item 6, which you'll find on page 37, which we'll find very quickly. Okay, that is land at 1 Oxley Cottage, Tolleshunt, Darcy. And who's taking us through this? Is that you again, Mr. Bailey?
You've got me all night, Chair.
No, that's absolutely fine. Let's keep it neat.
Thank you very much. Yes, this is an application for change of use from residential garage store to Class E hairdressing business at 1 Oxley Cottage, 1 Oxley Hill, Tolleshunt, Darcy. Again, we have a short members update on this item, which I hope you have. Following representations received from an objector regarding the use of the rear access track to the site, an additional condition has been proposed requiring all parking for the use to be accommodated to the front of the site, and this has been agreed with the applicant, but I will come on to that in more detail later. Further to the update being circulated, members may also wish to note that following officer contact with the objector today to bring this suggested condition to their attention, they have confirmed in writing that they no longer wish to speak in objection to the proposal this evening and have withdrawn their objection on the basis that the condition is imposed. So, but I will come on to that in more detail later. Yes, so the location plan here shows the position of the application site relative to Oxley Hill to the west of the site and the junction with Darcy Road and Top Road here, and the shared access which extends down to the rear of the site and to the southeast. This is the wider context, being located obviously about approximately 800 metres to the southeast to the centre of the main section of Tolleshunt Knights, and Tiptree beyond, and 3 kilometres northwest of Tolleshunt Darcy to down here. Again, a quick run through of the location. This is the northern approach to the site from Darcy Road. The approach from the south. Here you can see the entrance to the front driveway, which, as you can see here, provides, as shown on the plans submitted, provides parking for 3 vehicles. However, clearly there is scope for parking of more on that extended driveway. A couple of photos from the rear. This is the garage under construction. This was approved in 2016 under application 16/00002 house, with a condition preventing any use for commercial or business purposes. Turning slightly to the right, you have the side elevation of the house, where you can see just about see a side gate which provides access from the front driveway to the rear of the site. And here is a longer shot of the garage under construction with the shared rear access track subject of discussion, which serves the 2 neighbouring properties here and adjoining farmland. The site benefits from a right-of-way over this track, although it is understood that the deeds prevent use for commercial purposes, and a small area of parking for the existing house exists here. So the application seeks permission for change of use from residential garage store to Class E. It's useful to note for members that in many cases, the operation of a small-scale hairdressing business in a domestic environment at this scale would usually be considered incidental to the main residential use and may not even require planning permission. However, in this instance, given that the applicant wishes to convert a space within the garage under construction for the hairdressing use, due to the control by condition which prevents any commercial or business use that had been applied to that permission, the applicant has therefore sought to apply to the council for permission for the use for the avoidance of any doubt. Due to the limited scale of the proposal and anticipated levels of custom at the site, officers consider that the proposal would not have an adverse impact upon the character of the area or neighbouring amenity. But as mentioned, a specific concern has been identified relating to the use of the rear access track by visitors to the hairdresser and possible implications for the condition of that track and ongoing maintenance costs, which are shared with the neighbours. This was raised very recently, and in response to the comments, officers have proposed an additional condition as set out in the members' update, requiring that all staff and visitor parking should be provided to the front driveway of the site, access from Oxley Hill. The applicant has confirmed that this would be the case in any event, and that was their intended approach, that the rear parking that exists at the site, which is already in use for the storage of the occupiers' residential vehicles, will continue in its current arrangement. As I explained also, the objector has been informed of this, and they have confirmed that the objection would be withdrawn on the basis of that condition being imposed as part of the decision. Just for completeness, these are the floor plans of the garage. You can see here that this triangular area is the part of the building to be used for the hairdresser salon use. Relatively small at 14 square metres, and including the small WC to the bottom there. So again, no concerns in terms of the potential intensity of the use here. It's very much a home business type operation. And again, here are the elevations of the garage for your information, which align with the 2016 scheme. So yes, in summary, it's outside of a defined settlement boundary, and an employment use in broad terms would be contrary to policies E1 and S8 accordingly. However, given the limited home business scale of the proposed hairdressing operation within the existing approved garage structure, it is considered unlikely to harm the character of the surrounding area or residential amenity. Subject to the additional condition discussed, the development would not result in any other material harm in terms of highway safety or ecology or biodiversity, subject to conditions, and officers recommend that permission be granted subject to the conditions within the report and the members' update. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. I'm just going to, there's a couple of things I wanted to, you mentioned staff.
Yes.
So is this not a sort of, not going to be used by the owner of the property adjacent, or are external staff going to be used?
The wording of the condition in terms of staff was added to cover the event that an external member of staff may be drafted in. For example, and kind of an anecdotal example, but the one that was put forward by the agent the lady that owns the property, that runs the business, was, for example, dressing the hair for a bride on a wedding day, there might be a need for a colleague to assist in that, and therefore a friend or assistant would help in that respect. But it is to be run by the owner of the property,
And there's not a lot of room for anybody else to be working there.
precisely.
That's a hairdresser.
Yes.
And the other thing is signage. Can we condition that there's no external signage? Or
I don't believe there is any intention for signage, and it's by appointment only. But were signage required,
it would need
it would need a separate application in any event, unless it was under the permitted advert regs. But I don't see the need for that explicitly as part of this, Chair.
Okay, we have no speakers on the. Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, just a couple of questions, if I may, please. In the original planning permission, then, there was a condition granted that stipulated no business use. So I'd just be interested to know what's changed. I mean, this seems harmless to me, but I'd just like to understand that better, please.
I believe that the original condition was imposed to make sure, because of the nature of the site and the fact that it does benefit from what would appear to be a separate access along the track, that the overall scale of the garage proposed at that point in time could lend itself to a workshop or, light industrial use or something outside of the applicant's control. The imposition of a condition such as that is usually to prevent the subdivision of the site, so that you could end up potentially with a use of that building that would conflict with the amenities of the residents in the front properties. As mentioned in the presentation, the business use in this case is more towards the home business side of things as opposed to a separate entity.
My question, can we condition that is the case, that it isn't sold off as a separate business premises?
There is. I believe the wording, if I can just bring the, bear with me 2 seconds, Chair.
It's probably there, but
yes. Yes, so condition 2 refers to shall be used separate planning unit, shall not be used as a separate planning unit or for any other commercial purpose. It's locked down quite tightly, shall we say.
Good to hear. Councillor Stevens again.
Thank you for that. I'm happy with that. Just coming back to parking, I understand why people would want the parking to be just on the front. Could you go back to the photo that showed the front? Because it looks huge, but in my experience, parking spaces always look an awful lot smaller when I'm in the car trying to get my car into the space. And I think if you've got the current client and then the next client arrives and the owner, and maybe they have got their member of staff or a family visitor, I just think about people reversing out onto the road, a road they're not familiar with, or reversing in. I take it they can't do a U-turn and keep in forward gear, but is there really enough space for parking there, please, and manoeuvring? Thank you.
Yes, I believe there is, and also bear in mind, as mentioned, that they do still have the rear parking area for their own use as the residents. So you have the area. Apologies, I haven't got the best angle of shot here, but this is the parking area that they still have use of for. Again, on the plans, you can see that they've shown 2 vehicles there, but clearly there's space for 3. And don't forget, this is a garage, which is retained as such here as a double garage within this portion of the site. So they've got a double garage, two external spaces to the rear, and arguably six to the three. Let's say three because the plans show three, but plenty of space. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Morley.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I know the property. There is plenty of space down the side there for their cars, and I think should be commended for starting a business this day and age. So
It's very brave.
very brave, and I'd like to propose we go with the officers and accept it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
this comes down to material harm, I guess, and there's not a lot of material harm. So we got that prepared. Are you prepared to second that, Councillor Stevens? Show if you're in favour. Thank you. That is passed. Thank you, Mr. Bailey. We now move on to item 7, found on page 45. We have a speaker for this one. This is change of use of land for stationing of caravans for residential purposes in Colchester Road, Great Totham. Mr. Bailey again.
Thank you, Chair. Bear with me 2 seconds. Yes, one final members update was on this one. The other two don't have one. This was a short clarification in regards to the comparisons between the application scheme in front of you this evening and a larger scheme incorporating this site that had been previously dismissed at appeal, which we'll come on to briefly later. The plan shows here the location of the site to the eastern side of Colchester Road, to the northeast of the property known as the Stables, which is within the applicant's ownership. Zooming out slightly in terms of the wider context, here viewed aerially, as you can see, it's positioned between Great Totham north and south, and outside of any defined settlement boundary within the open countryside. Just a few photographs of the site for reference. Here we have the existing site access from Colchester Road, granted planning permission in 2018. This is to be used for the proposed development in this case. The entrance viewed from within the site, the hard standing within the foreground here, also form part of that approved 2018 scheme at the site. This is the view across the site eastwards towards Beckingham Road in the distance up here, with the boundary to the stables to the right hand side, as you can see here, and this sort of moving around to the left, looking further to the northeast, again with Beckingham Road running in the distance up here, sort of out of sight. So the application here seeks permission for the change of use of land for stationing of caravans for residential purposes and day rooms and hard standing ancillary to that use. Here you have the existing site plan, and here the proposed. So we have an area of hard standing to accommodate one static caravan, one touring caravan, and an associated day room building which provides fixed amenities for the residents. We have new soft landscaping along the boundaries here, and tree planting to the northwestern side of the hard standing area, which seek to soften the appearance of the scheme in the wider context. Again, we'll come on to that in a moment. As already noted, the scheme reuses the existing access point here. In terms of the caravans, the precise dimensions would be controlled by way of planning conditions and would be as defined in the Caravan Sites and Control Development Act 1960, which I believe is maximum external length of 20 metres, overall width of 6.8 metres, and internal height of just over 3 metres. The proposed day room / utility room would be of simple timber construction and would measure 8 metres by 5 metres at a height of 4 metres to ridge level, as shown on the slide here. Now, the member update circulated yesterday was sent to provide some further clarification in terms of comparisons between the previously dismissed appeal from 2019 at the wider site and this current proposal. To summarise, the previous appeal scheme that was dismissed covered a significantly larger area. As you can see in the slide here, the site area in that case was 2.26 hectares and included a substantial area of open land to the southeast of the site, which the inspector was concerned would potentially be affected by creep of usage, and obviously in this case 3 large plots proposed with the associated access route linking all of them. By comparison, and this is provided an overlay of the current application scheme on that appeal scheme plan. The extent of the appeal scheme in green here and the hard standing previously proposed, which is now no longer part of the proposal, in grey, together with the new landscaping, as you can see, which I've mentioned. It is considered that given the comparative scale, limited scale, together with the new landscaping, that the current scheme would not have a significant impact on the character and appearance of the area, and as set out in the report. In terms of its location, as explained within the report, although the site is not considered sustainable in terms of availability of services and public transport, the planning policy of traveller sites also accepts that traveller sites may be acceptable in rural locations. It is the case that the lifestyle of gypsies and travellers varies from that of a settled community and involves the use of private vehicles irrespective of location. And this is a conclusion drawn in other locations. Therefore, the use of public transport would not apply in a similar way as for occupiers of conventional dwellings. Taking this into account, on balance, it is considered that the accessibility of the site would be acceptable in principle. So, overall, the site is situated outside a defined boundary with the council's 5-year housing land supply position, and in light of the shortfall in supply of gypsy and traveller plots in the district, the principle of development is on balance considered acceptable due to the limited scale of the proposal and in turn the minimal impact upon the character and appearance of the countryside, as well as absence of harm in terms of residential amenity. The development would not result in any material harm in terms of highway safety or ecology and biodiversity, subject to the conditions set out in the report. Officer recommendation is to grant permission subject to those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have a speaker for this. Is that, are you Mr. Marbury? No? No, I'm Mr. Green. If you'd like to take a seat with a microphone, you've got plenty of choice there, Mr. Green. You have 2 minutes from when you start to speak. 2 minutes is 2 minutes, as you're aware, I'm sure. So the countdown will start when you start speaking.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, good evening. I am Nathaniel Green from Green Planning Services, and I'm speaking on behalf of our client William Draper in support of this application. This committee is here to decide the application according to planning law only, and this application is recommended for approval subject to conditions. The application is for the material change of use of land for the stationing of caravans for residential purposes and day rooms and hard-standing ancillary to that use. And as your officer's report explains in detail, there is a fundamental need in the county that other than windfall sites such as these will not be met in the foreseeable future. Maldon District Council accepts that there is a requirement over the period for 86 pitches under the ethnic definition or 55 pitches under the PPTS definition, and this is likely to be an underestimate. The Council cannot demonstrate a 5-year land supply of deliverable gypsy sites, which constitutes a failure of policy and is therefore a material consideration that also counts in favour of the application. And granting this application will reduce Maldon's District Council's shortfall of gypsy sites in accords with policies S8 and H6. The site is screened to the northwest from the road, and although additional soft landscaping will be planted within the site to further mitigate effects upon the landscape, and as your officer's report states, the small scale of the development and the recognised need for gypsy sites outweighs any impact upon the landscape. The effect upon local amenity is considered to be minimal, the nearest property being 50 metres away from the caravan with significant vegetation in between, and Highways have stated they have no objection to the application. There are 13 suggested conditions and Mr Draper is happy to comply with them, and on that basis I urge you to approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Green. Just before we come to, can we just clarify what our shortage is in Gypsy and Traveller? I know it depends which book you read, but
yes,
it is significant, I believe.
it is, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure as you thank you. Yes, it is, Chair. I'm sure as you're familiar with other sites, this matter has been interrogated through appeal, where the council's significant shortfall and the lack of an up-to-date policy to meet legislation was made quite evident, and there's been no change in that situation since then. Thank you, Chair.
My other question is, has that significantly changed since 2019 on the basis that that appeal was lost for 3 pitches? And I'm mindful of the picture that we've had in that more than half of that site is still available, so and I know we can't take it into account, but others may come in the future if we have that similar shortfall. I can't remember where we were in 2019, to be honest.
Thank you, Chair. Well, neither can I, as
okay,
I wasn't in the council at the time, but
okay.
So I can't explicitly answer the question in the detail.
Well, we can really only determine this one in front of us. So anyway, yes, Mr Bailey.
Yes, just to confirm, as the applicant's agent has stated, and within the report at 5.2.3, the identified need identified within the 2024 report is for 55 pitches. So it may be that is slightly different to when the application you were discussing with Mr Johnson.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite disturbed that we haven't got the right figures, and I don't really understand how we've arrived at where we have arrived. And we've all sat here and said, oh, we should be building more of this and building more of that, building more of the other, for, people first trying to get a house or social housing or whatever. And we should have the right figures. So I'm completely all in favour of this, and I propose that we agree with the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the government have changed the rules, changed the numbers in the NPPF review, of course. Councillor Morley.
Yes, I know this site, and to my mind, it's always been an immaculate site. Actually, it's always been well maintained and looked after. So I agree. It's don't have a problem. Thank you.
So you're proposing that we accept the officer's recommendations to approve it. You're seconded. Well, please show. Thank you very much. That is granted. Thank you, Mr. Green. We now move on to item 8 on page 65. Something strange has happened to my computer. Agricultural barn at Loddarts Farm, Lodge Road, Woodham, Mortimer. Mr. Bailey again.
Hi. Okay, we're getting there. Yes, this is application for demolition of existing barn and outbuilding and erection of a new dwelling in the style of the original barn. As with the Great Braxted scheme, we've already discussed this evening at item 5, this is an application for which follows from an existing prior approval for conversion of the existing barn to create a new dwelling approved in April of this year under 25/0019 PACUAR. In reviewing the scheme in advance of construction, the applicant wishes to create a more energy efficient dwelling with alterations to allow for, specifically for improved wheelchair access for the owner occupier, and therefore seeks to demolish and replace the existing structure with a barn of a very similar appearance to that of the prior approval scheme. The site is bear with me, sorry, I've lost control. The site is located to the southern side of Lodge Road between Hazley and Woodham Mortimer, as the aerial here shows, and is located outside of any defined settlement boundary and in the open countryside. The existing barn, as highlighted here in red, is positioned to the southwest of an existing residential property at Kinvara Manor, set back behind substantial planting along the southern edge of Lodge Road. Here's the approach to the site as you drive up from Hazley, and the entrance to the site. As mentioned, you have very dense vegetation either side along the site boundary. Here we have the main barn structure in its current form, and as viewed looking back towards the entrance, pretty substantial structure. This is the rear elevation of it, looking northwards towards Lodge Road, with as you can see, a dense tree line to the right hand side between the site and Kinvara Manor, which you can just see through a small gap there in the hedgerow, in the Leylandi. And just out of interest, there's a strata of the existing interior of the barn. This was obviously relevant in terms of the prior approval to demonstrate its structural integrity and the ability to be converted, which officers considered was the case in that instance. Finally, this is the view southeastwards from what will be the rear elevation of the barn. This hard standing in the foreground here would be removed as part of this latest proposal that was not in the prior approval scheme. As explained, it's effectively a new build replacement of the extant prior approval scheme. For comparison, here we have the existing elevations of the barn. These are the prior approval elevations, where you can see there are some additional openings inserted to facilitate the residential conversion, but overall massing is obviously the same as it's converted. Here we have the current scheme. The massing, again, is essentially identical, albeit with some slightly larger openings to the centre of the building here, to provide more natural light into the central space. And photovoltaic panels to the roof, which please don't be led to believe these are skylights. These are photovoltaic panels on the roof here in white. Which in actual fact could potentially be installed under permitted development rights on the prior approval scheme anyway. So what we're looking at for comparison is the openings and the differences between the prior approval scheme and this latest proposal, which are relatively minimal changes. For comparison, we have the ground floor and site layout of the prior approval scheme here. Shows the large open plan kitchen, living, dining space and bedrooms to the front. The new scheme is configured in a very similar manner, but notably includes internal ramped access for the wheelchair user, as well as incorporating the front retained building here for useful bin store, garden storage, cycle storage, plant and a small workshop area. The layout also notably improves the soft landscaping to the rear of the site, with level access for the wheelchair user from that living space into the garden. In short, again, outside the settlement boundary, but we're in tilted balance. But as with item 5, we have the situation where an extant consent for the prior approval remains in place, which is capable of being implemented and a real prospect of being pursued. Therefore, in light of the established prior approval fallback, it is considered that the proposal would not result in additional unacceptable harm beyond that which could occur under the extant prior approval. In terms of other matters and considerations, of the development is not considered to result in any harm in terms of amenity, highway safety, ecology or biodiversity, subject to conditions, and therefore officers recommend that permission be granted on that basis. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We have a speaker. Is that you, sir? I'm guessing you're Mr. Brown. No. Oh, well, that's twice I've got it wrong. Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Is that Mr. Ragg then? Okay, that's the magic of the internet. Okay, so Mr. Ragg, yeah, you have 2 minutes, and that countdown will start when you start to speak.
Thank you. I am here in support of this application to replace the barn with a similar new build dwelling for the applicant to retire into. The existing barn has prior approval to be converted into a dwelling, and that's the approach we have been taking. The applicant is keen to progress this as a self-build. However, in doing so, we have come to realise that converting the barn has its limits, does not lend itself to our client's brief. In a nutshell, the client would like to future-proof this for a long-term residency. The current barn has a split-level ground floor internally and externally, and is not ideal for full accessibility or adaptability. While the barn can be converted, levelling the ground to a degree that is requested falls outside of permitted development rights. The applicant is very keen to make this property as self-sufficient and thermally efficient as possible. A rebuild enables us the freedom to go above and beyond the building regulations, something that is limited with the existing structure and materials. The applicant is looking at modern methods of construction to drive down build costs and construction time, while vastly improving the thermal performance when compared to conversion. The building will reside in its current location, and it will take the form and style of its predecessor. This ensures the proposal do not alter the character of its setting. The existing barn has no heritage value and is not located in or near the conservation area or near listed buildings. We will retain the older unused brick building at the site frontage. This will be restored and upcycled for ancillary use for the new dwelling. We propose to recycle most of the existing barn into the new building. Any contaminants will be disposed of appropriately, masonry being broken into hardcore and reused into the fabric of the building. One aim is for a polished concrete floor using broken down material from the barn.
That's your 2 minutes, I'm afraid.
No, that's fine. I was just going to wrap it up by saying
No,
thanks
that's
for
absolutely
listening.
fine. Thank you. I think we've definitely got the gist. I know the site. I know the parish council are in support of it. And again, I think, personally speaking, it's an improvement over an extant design, certainly better looking, more economically viable and more eco-friendly. So, but anybody, any questions? Yes, Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with everything you've just said. I do just have a question about those solar panels, though. That picture did look a bit strange. Will they just be black and invisible? I ask that because it's going to be viewable, or this building must now be visible
they
for
will be
miles away. Will those solar panels be a bit more toned down than the picture implies?
I'm sure they will. By looking over at the applicant there, I think that's definitely the case. I mean, you can't really. I don't think a white solar panel would work in any event.
No, I've not seen any. That's for certain.
But as mentioned, it's one of those things where the legislation nowadays allows for installation of solar panels on most buildings without planning permission. So it's more an indication from the applicant as to the fact that they are going to be installing those.
Thank you. To be commended. Is that going to turn itself into a proposal then, Councillor?
I think it could, yes.
And
I
is that
propose that
seconded,
we agree
Councillor
with the
Morley?
officer's recommendation.
Please show if you're in favour.
Yeah.
Oh, unless you would, do you want to ask a question? No. You're indicating. Okay, please show. That is granted. Last item on the agenda, item 9, found on page 83. It's a new self-built chalet bungalow, Chelmsford Road, Purleigh. Mr. Bailey, yours.
Thank you. Last one. Yes, new build, self-build chalet bungalow and detached garage at land at St George's House, Chelmsford Road, Purleigh. Here we have the site location, which is towards the southern end of Rudley Green, as shown on the aerial shot here, approximately 350 metres to the north of the settlement boundary of Purleigh and roughly 1.4 kilometres to the southeast of Hazley. Zooming in slightly, we have the site here, as you can see, on the eastern side of Chelmsford Road, with notably other residential properties which extend on the western side, which extend further to the south. Here is the approach to the site as coming from the Purleigh direction, with the application site on the right-hand side. Flipping around, the approach from the north, this is St George's House here, which is adjacent to the site down here. Here we have the existing gated access to the site at present, and then moving into the site view from within. This is the rear eastern tree-lined boundary. Turning around back facing towards the road, you can see the extent and height of the front boundary planting from within the site, and the boundary with St George's House there, and finally sort of the more substantial. Oh, sorry, I've gone the wrong way. Finally, the southern boundary of the site, which is very substantial, and as mentioned in the report, forms quite a notable boundary to the bottom of Rudley Green as you approach from the south, and as you can see on the this site location plan here, it is along this section, this boundary here. Sorry for the deviation there. Yeah, so moving on then to the site layout, the proposed chalet bungalow uses the existing gated access point, which would lead onto a permeable gravel driveway with parking for up to 5 cars and a double garage positioned towards the northern boundary. The main dwelling itself is to the centre of the site. Worth noting that all of the existing trees and landscaping surrounding the plot are to be retained as part of the scheme. Again, mentioning that solid wooded boundary to the south there, as well as some additional tree plant, or the odd tree planted, as you can see on the plan here. The proposed elevations, as mentioned, it's designed as a chalet bungalow with symmetrically positioned side, front and rear dormers, with central gable, constructed principally in red brick with red clay tile roof. I do have a photo montage illustrating the overall appearance coming up in the slides. Here, for information, is the proposed internal configuration. As you can see, combined kitchen and dining with living spaces to the rear and right-hand side, ground floor, with 4 bedrooms within first floor / within the roof space. 2 of those being en suite and one shared bathroom to the front. Just for completeness, is the plans for the detached garage, which is positioned to the northern side of the site. Fairly straightforward in terms of its construction. Here you have the photo montage, the purpose of which obviously is to illustrate how the detailed design and the palette of materials proposed is very much in keeping with the style of surrounding properties in the locality. The applicant's design and access statement actually goes into quite some detail in terms of referring to nearby dwellings and the palette of materials used there. Now, as noted, the site is outside of a defined settlement boundary. Because of the tilted balance, we need to therefore consider whether or not the site here lies within a sustainable location for the purposes of that balancing exercise. As the slide here illustrates, the site benefits from direct, safe paved access to services within Purleigh to the south. I say to the south, this is orientated to fit the slide, so south being this direction. You have obviously the community shop and the school within 10 minutes to the school, 40-minute walk to the community shop, along the paved route which extends southwards from the site. We also have, as mentioned in the report, bus routes serving 2 bus stops or bus points, shall I say, at Spa Lane, which is only 100 metres up to the north of the site. Taking into account the accessibility of the site and its links to these services, and also bearing in mind the approach taken by planning inspectors in relation to other appeals that have taken place, have been determined within the district, officers consider on balance that the site is located within a sustainable location for the purposes of assessment under paragraph 11D of the MPPF, or otherwise known as the tilted balance. Just for reference, here you have the pavement which extends southwards towards Purleigh, which, although officers acknowledge is not illuminated, is considered sufficiently wide to provide safe access to the village services and the school and so on. Likewise, this is the location of the Spa Lane bus collection / drop-off points, which is located just to the north of the site. So moving on to a summary, same summary as I think all of the reports this evening. We're outside of a defined settlement boundary, but in tilted balance. Officers consider that the site is in a sustainable location, given the safe walking routes to local community and convenient shopping facilities at a reasonable distance, and the availability of bus services from Rudley Green itself. The design of the proposed development is considered acceptable and would comprise sensitive development in keeping with the local area. It is considered that a dwelling at the site would not result in any harm in terms of residential amenity, highway safety, ecology or biodiversity, and subject to the planning conditions as set out in the report. And the officer recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to those. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. There is a property immediately to the north and the west. So there's one opposite and one on that photograph to the left, basically. Correct. Okay. I mean, it's a big site. The only thing, calling it a chalet bungalow, I think is stretching the old description a little bit. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a house. It's a dwelling. Let's not
chalet insofar as the roof, the recessed dormer design.
But I mean,
point noted.
It is, let's.
The point being that Chair, that the
technically, I suppose so, but I mean, okay, but I mean, it's a big site. I mean, any other comments apart from it's rather tenuous description as a chalet bungalow?
It is in keeping with what's opposite. I remember
It is
the others
totally,
being built. So
Councillor Stevens.
I don't really think, I mean, if put on the point, I'll say that I think it's good that we're enabling a self-build if we vote this through, because we don't see very many of those, I think.
It's
so
certainly a big one.
I would recommend that we approve the officer's recommendation.
I'll take that as a
for all the
proposal. Are you
reasons given.
seconding that, Councillor Morley?
yes, I will. I'll second that.
Please show in favour. That is passed. Thank you very much indeed. Item 6, any other items of business the Chairman decides are urgent? There are none, so I will close this meeting at 8:30. We've got 5 items done in an hour. That's a first.